Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport, and a pretty crazy British Grand Prix has just come to an end, and we have another British Grand Prix winner who is actually British. Lando Norris takes the step up onto the top of the podium for the first time at Silverstone, and congratulations to him. But this race was entirely about that third place finish for Nico Hulkenberg. 239 races into his career, finally he gets to take a podium place. I don't know if any... I just want this to be confirmed as certain, so it happens. Very happy for Hulkenberg. He's been around for so long. Was it 2010 when he debuted with Williams? He's been knocked off the grid a couple of times and always manages to come back. Finally gets his just rewards. He really deserves this. Sauber, honestly, I wrote them off at the start of this year. I said, you will not see a Sauber in the points all year. They will have no interest in developing this car. It's all about waiting for Audi to take over. And I was completely wrong about that, because they have been scoring some very decent points. And probably more points recently than a lot of the big teams around them. Certainly Red Bull, who had another difficult race. And as much as I said Max Verstappen's championship bid was over last week, this is even another dent, making it even harder even to finish in third place. He's fighting 4th, 5th, 6th. The Red Bull looks like an absolute dog, except occasionally Max seems to just hook it up and get pole position with an amazing lap. It's incredible what he's doing with that car, because I don't think the car is as good as Max is making it out to be, which is all the more worrying for the team, because if he left, they'd be screwed. And there's always rumblings about Max wanting to leave. This was another difficult race. Yuki Tsunoda was pretty much nowhere all weekend. The car is difficult at the best of times, and that doesn't seem to change in really difficult conditions. So their Constructors' Championship is in tatters. Their title bid pretty much over. It's going to be a pretty tough second half to the year for Red Bull. Ferrari, it was a mixed race for them. Lewis Hamilton drove well in difficult conditions, but he did seem to struggle once the tyres got too warm, and also when it was too wet. In fact, when the track was wet, the Ferraris looked like canal barges. Leclerc went off multiple times, but I think for Hamilton to get fourth, it was decent, but I think he'll be disappointed he couldn't catch the Sauber at the end. On a drying track, I think the Ferraris should have. But I think they find it very difficult to warm their tyres up, or something at like low temperature makes that car tricky. And it just didn't really look like it was on. I mean, Hamilton closed about 3 or 4 seconds in the last 12 laps or so, but Hulkenberg looked like he had it well in hand. I think 4th place for Hamilton, it's decent points when so many of their rivals have struggled. Obviously, this is not a good race for Mercedes or Red Bull again. But they are so far behind McLaren, there really isn't a championship. And Lewis Hamilton's streak of British Grand Prix podiums has now come to an end. After 13 in a row, I think it was. So, or 12 in a row, 13 in a row. Something like that. But that's gone. That's done. He's 4th. McLaren, world of their own. 30 seconds ahead of everyone else. It worked in the dry. It worked in the wet. That car is just incredible. You can see why they're 1st and 2nd in the championship. You can see why they're running away with this one. Piastri, it was a silly mistake that cost him this race. I think if this is what cost him the championship, I think he's going to have to look back at himself and say, why did I do that? You know not to play around behind a safety car. You play silly games, you get silly prizes. And I think the 10-second penalty for Piastri was probably fair. I'm sure the FIA will look at it, but I don't know what they can do retroactively. He served the penalty. He's lost the race. It's kind of done. But both him and Norris drove very well. The McLaren is working brilliantly. And honestly, one of them will be champion. And I think it'll be a pretty tough fight to the end of the year to see who actually gets to be a driver's champion for McLaren for the first time since Lewis Hamilton in 2008. As for the rest of the field, other than Nico Hulkenberg doing an incredible job, brilliant race from Lance Stroll. He was up in the podium positions himself for a fair while, but he did get passed by Hulkenberg and Hamilton, and then he seemed to struggle on low grip. He got passed by Verstappen and Gasly, but it is another points finish, his first for I think it's 8 or 9 races. He scored points a couple of times at the start of the season and hasn't for a while. So this is his first time back in the points, which keeps him above his teammate Alonso, who has been scoring points recently and did in this race. But I think he'll be disappointed to finish behind his teammate. I think tyre strategy, he was changing tyres at the wrong times. Stroll really nailed it the first time and kind of just followed the pack on the second time. So I think that's all that's cost Alonso not beating his teammate in this race was tyre strategy. But otherwise, a double points finish for Aston Martin is fair enough for them. Great race from Gasly, great qualifying. A lot of upheaval at Alpine, not just behind the scenes, but we still don't really know the future of Franco Colapinto. It was seemingly the wrong move to replace Jack Doohan with the Argentinian, despite the Argentinian driving so well for Williams last year. We saw in the Williams last year, he had a few crashes. Since he's been back at Alpine, he's done that again. This may be the end of his career. Maybe a team takes a chance on him again in the future. I don't know if we'll see him again. The links to Valtteri Bottas to take that second car, though, that is such a boring choice, but it's so typically Alpine. I imagine it'll be the case. Jack Doohan maybe should get the seat back because I don't think he was doing that bad a job. He was starting to match Pierre Gasly. Franco Colapinto has at times been in and around Gasly as well. So I think Alpine really just need to look at themselves and say, is this car really that good? Gasly does such a brilliant job here and there. I think it's not always the case. He clearly struggles with the Alpine sometimes, but Gasly is a great driver. And I think he's doing the best he can in Alpine, not helped by the team themselves. And I think more changes, more upheaval, it's only going to be more of a problem going forward. The rookies had a hard time at this race. It was all the rookies who crashed. Lawson and Hadjar both had accidents that were not really their fault. Lawson got tagged by Ocon, who was kind of stuck in a Tsunoda-Lawson sandwich. We saw Hadjar go off in a really heavy rain after running into the back of Antonelli, who he couldn't see. That caused Antonelli to retire as well, in what was not a good race for Mercedes. We saw Bortoletto spin off as well, which was another retirement. Colapinto, I don't think he actually started the race. But they are 5 drivers who are very inexperienced and did not manage to get to the end of this changing, crazy Silverstone race. One who did was Ollie Behrman, who has been quick all weekend, and he did such a brilliant job to get 11th. I don't know if he'll be able to keep it because he did make contact with his teammate. I think he might get a penalty for that. But he was quick. He drove really well. The Haas looked really decent on this track, even in changing conditions. Couldn't quite manage to get in the top 10. I think strategy might have had a part to play in that, but there were also spins and contact and knocks, and even Behrman and Ocon crashing into each other. So I think 11th place for Behrman in this difficult race at his home Grand Prix. It was a brilliant drive. Definitely top rookie. Williams, barely saw them. Russell, very difficult race. Lucky to get a point, but not good for his championship. And I think the only other driver I haven't talked about is Verstappen, really, who was 6th. He made a mistake and spun on the safety car where Piastri got a penalty. Maybe it was frustration, maybe it was just a mistake getting ready, but it cost him big points. And as I said, his championship pretty much over. That was the story of the British Grand Prix. It was a pretty messy one. We saw drivers going off multiple times. Leclerc honestly looked more like a rallycross driver this weekend than he did a Formula 1 driver. There were others. Ocon got involved in a few incidents. I'm not sure how he managed to finish the race. He took so many knocks. But in the end, Lando Norris wins. The fight for the title is between Norris and Piastri. But most importantly of all, congratulations to Nico Hulkenberg for getting on the podium at last. It's only taking you 15 years. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe. I'm still in exile at the moment, but hopefully something will change very soon. Probably not, but I'll be back for the next Grand Prix at least. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good one.